Hi everyone! So today we're completing OMVIC's Individual Application Form, and I will be putting timestamps in the description of this video, so you may just want to skip ahead to certain sections if you are filling it out and maybe you're getting stuck, then you don't have to watch this whole video. But anyway, if not, you can always just complete the application alongside us. That's cool too. And please do feel free. Drop comments below because I'm sure there's a ton of questions. Everybody's situation is very unique, so we're just sort of going over the general, how we generally complete the application. But please, if you have any questions, drop them below and we can answer them too as we go along. Alright, so okay, let's get started. Before completing this individual application form, you also must have already completed your OMVIC certification course. So that really is step one, and I really do encourage everyone to make that their step one. Because when you take that OMVIC certification course, there's tons of information to learn. So when you take that, it really informs you on what you're getting yourself into. There's a whole lot of regulation and a lot of rules you have to follow. So you want to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. So I highly recommend you take that first. And after you pass your course and you decide you want to continue forward on your dealer journey, then by all means, now it's time to complete your individual application form, along with any other members who may be part of your business as well must also complete this form. So you're completing this application form if you want to work at a dealership and you want to become a salesperson at a dealership. This individual application form must be completed as part of your salesperson registration. And also, if you want to open up your own dealership, you would also be completing this individual application form. It's actually part of the business application form, and we're going to do a video about that shortly. So the individual application form must be completed for all officers, directors, partners, the sole proprietor, shareholders, any signing authorities, or any other individual who's seeking registration as a salesperson. So if you are opening your own dealership and you are a sole proprietor, then yes, you'd have to also complete the individual application form. If you are opening a dealership and you decide to register it as a corporation, and again, Neil did a great video about how to decide between sole proprietorship and corporation, but if you're going to open up as a corporation and maybe there's multiple shareholders or you have multiple other individuals that are also part of, like maybe you have family members or some other partners that want to be involved with your dealership, then every single person that's involved must also complete an individual application form. OMVIC does note that at least one partner or officer, if you're a corporation, or the sole proprietor should be a Canadian citizen or landed immigrant in Canada. So if not, they're encouraging you to contact OMVIC before submitting your application, and I would encourage you to do that too because the application is $250. So if at least one person has their Canadian citizenship or is a landed immigrant in Canada, then you should be okay. But if not, then please contact OMVIC, and they might be able to direct you in a different way if that's not the case. So let's get started and check out, see what this form is all about. Now let's get to our OMVIC website, omvic.on.ca. Once you're here, you're going to go to Dealers, click, then you're going to go to Registration Services and click on Become a Registrant. So again, there's two sections here. There's the first section for new salespersons or reinstatements or individuals associated with a new dealer, and again, you would have to complete the individual application form. So that's what we're going to do today. So this is where you find the form. If we skip down here to the new dealer section, so these are individuals who want to open up their own dealerships, you would have to complete your business application form, and we're going to do that in a later video. And again, just a reminder, you'll also have to complete this individual application form in addition to completing your OMVIC Automotive Certification course. Let's finally get into this individual application. So I'm going to click, and here's our application form. So before we get started completing like the sections or going through the sections, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the very last page, because the very last page will have a checklist of all the things you'll need. You're going to need a copy of photo ID, and that can be a passport or a driver's license. And you'll also need a copy of proof of eligibility to work in Canada, so that can be a Canadian birth certificate, a Canadian citizenship card, a permanent resident card, or landed immigration papers. It looks like also, if you skip down here, you are going to need, it says BackCheck clearance report or original criminal record and judicial matters check. So this is like just a criminal record check. I will show you in a little bit. There's a link, so OMVIC has a link on how to complete this BackCheck report. I think there's a fee for that too, but we'll get there when we get there. And then finally, this application will cost $250. It does say here, if you're applying as a sole proprietor, the $250 fee is not required. But if you're, if you have a corporation, or if you're going to be a salesperson working at a dealership, you would have to pay for this application. So anyway, so let's get started. Let's scroll back to the top. So now that you guys have all your stuff, let's go through it. The first thing you're going to check is that you are a first-time applicant, and you're going to check here in the individual information section. You're going to attach clear copies of 2 separate pieces of identification, and please check the boxes to identify what you attach. So if you attached a driver's license, you would check driver's license. It is the preferred photo ID, but alternatively, if you have your Canadian passport, you just check that. So that's straightforward. So let's just pretend we have a driver's license, your proof of eligibility to work in Canada. Maybe it's a Canadian birth certificate, so just click one of these, it doesn't matter, so just pick one, and then you write your first name, and you write your last name, you can write your middle name, maybe you have an alias, you're known as, I don't know, like Wonder Woman, who knows. Okay, so your gender, oh dear, yes, so let's do that, and your birth date, we'll just do a little bit of that action there for you. Okay. Home phone number, I think this is all self-explanatory. Mobile phone, alternate phone, business email, personal email. Your residence, so put your residence. Again, remember you guys are attaching your driver's license on here, so hopefully, the address on your driver's license matches, I guess. Will you be the person in charge of the dealership? So a person in charge is at the dealership on a day-to-day basis and has been designated with an accepted primary responsibility for ensuring compliance with the Motor Vehicle Dealers Act. So you would hit yes or no. So if you're the person in charge, so let's say you're wanting to become a dealer, yes, you'll be the person in charge, so you check yes, and then you would check the appropriate boxes to identify the positions you will occupy. So this is interesting because let's say, yes, you're the person in charge, and maybe you have a corporation, right? So maybe you're the director, or maybe you're the officer of the corporation. You're probably also maybe a shareholder. Anyways, you can click multiple options here. Then you go to this side. So let's say you're like you have a corporation and you're one of the officers, but you're also going to be the salesperson, because maybe you're it's a very small business, and you will be in fact dealing with customers, and you will be selling them cars, and you would have to click also salesperson, right? Yeah. Or maybe you're the used car manager, so you'd click that. And again, there's all these stars, and these stars mean an individual who will trade on behalf of their dealership must be registered. Trade includes either buying, selling, leasing, advertising, or exchanging an interest in a motor vehicle, or negotiating, inducing, or attempting to induce the buying, selling, leasing, or exchanging of an interest in a motor vehicle. So section B is all about preconditions to registration. So in this section, you're going to click no for both of these answers. This is basically, if you're a first-time dealer and you've never obviously registered with OMVIC before, these 2 questions don't really apply to you. So let me just go over the questions so you understand. So the first question is saying, has the applicant ever had a registration under the Motor Vehicle Dealers Act refused, revoked, suspended, or canceled? So I'm assuming this is your first time. That's obviously no. Basically, this sounds like if maybe you were a dealer and you got your license revoked for whatever reason, and you want to reapply, this would pertain to you. But I'm just speaking to new dealers. I'm not really familiar with that part of the application. So yes, so if you're a new dealer, don't worry about that. You're going to hit no. And the second question is, has the applicant previously or do they presently own or operate a business that is in default with the Motor Dealers Compensation Fund or retail sales tax? So obviously if you've never opened a dealership before, that means you've never contributed to the Dealers Compensation Fund, so that would be no. But then it also says part 2 here, it says retail sales tax. So that just means if you were like, maybe you owned a convenience store or something, and you had a business and you had an HST number, and you didn't file your HST, or actually you filed your HST and you're owing HST, you're owing taxes. So if yes, what arrangements has the applicant made to pay monies owed, and has the applicant complied with those arrangements? And that's kind of the same thing. It's just to be open and honest, and it doesn't mean that, oh, because you owe money, it's a problem. It just means that you are aware, you're taking care of it, and OMVIC just wants to know that, yes, you acknowledge it, but you've been responsible to take care of it, and it is what it is, and here's a copy of the repayment agreement and payment confirmations. And if you can supply that information, then you should have no problem. And then question 3 says, have you completed the OMVIC certification course within the last 2 years from the date of this application? So because you watched our videos, hopefully the answer is yes, you did complete it and you did pass it. And when you do register for the OMVIC certification course, you should be getting a Georgian College student ID. So you would go ahead and put that student ID in, and there should be a certification date. I guess OMVIC will also send that to you. So you would just put that date in as well. So let's carry on. So if the answer is no, so let's just say, oh, you didn't know about it and you haven't done that yet, but you still just want to go and get all your paperwork done. So you could hit no, that's fine. You would just select, you will complete the certification course prior to the registration being granted. So you would just, let's say you said no because you hadn't done it yet, but you want to go ahead, and then make sure you select this one, that you are aware and you're basically acknowledging that that you're going to have to complete the course before this individual application and the whole registration can be granted. Okay, great. Right. So let's go to section C now. So in section C, you are to provide your employment or other activities for the last 5 years or since your most recent OMVIC registration, right? And make sure to include anything if you've been an officer, director, an owner, partner, or operator of any business or any company in the past. Make sure you include that. And basically ensure the information is consecutive and covers the entire time period. So really they want to see, like, for the last 5 years, what have you been up to? How have you been making money? And so you do the start date, right? So maybe the start date can be maybe since, the past 5 years. I don't know, right? And this is going to be very tailored to every individual. Maybe you were a student, maybe you were you employed, were you unemployed, or other, explain why. So if you're a student, you could put the name of the school and the type of program you're studying, reasons for leaving. Again, you could be as clear as possible. It doesn't mean you have to, I guess they want the more information, the better. They just want to get an idea of, like, what is your background, where are you coming from, and that's okay. And maybe, you've been, and that's okay too. So maybe you were a student and you haven't been working, you've been a student for the past, 5 years. So that's fine too, right? So let me just read this more. So let's say you were employed, then you would leave all this. You would put the name of the business that you work for, and the name of company owner or president. Maybe if you don't have this information, you can just put your manager, supervisor's direct information, and I suppose their phone number and email if you have it. Again, OMVIC will tell you whether they need more information. So if you're not sure, you could probably just leave it blank, and they can ask you more questions maybe. So don't stress too much about that for now. And finally, the last part of the application is section D, all about eligibility. So let's quickly go through that. It's just a series of yes and no questions. So let's go through them and see what they have to say. So question 1, does the applicant currently hold a valid Ontario driver's license? Yes or no? Obviously yes, if you provided a copy of the driver's license as your photo ID, because OMVIC does prefer that as photo ID. But it's okay if the answer is no. That's fine too. Doesn't mean you can't sell cars because you don't have a driver's license. You're not driving the cars, you're selling the cars, right? Question 2, has the applicant ever had a commercial, professional, or business registration certification or license of any kind refused, suspended, revoked, cancelled, or currently is/has been a party to such a proceeding, including disciplinary action in any jurisdiction? Yes or no? Yeah, have you ever applied for some sort of business license, or maybe like you were applied to be a real estate agent, I don't know, I'm just saying, and you got your license refused, or maybe you got it revoked or refused or canceled or anything like that, right? Yes or no? Number 3, are there any active or unsatisfied judgments, collections, or court orders, including family support payments, which are in arrears against the applicant in any jurisdiction? Yes or no? So this is interesting because collections or court orders, like, you know, this is possible, right, for some people. Yeah, so if you did answer yes, you would have to explain a little more about the situation, and for the collections or any court orders or unsatisfied judgments, how are you dealing them? If you were behind in payments, but you're aware and you have some sort of proof or some sort of, you know, you could even just write, this is how I'm handling it, this is what I've agreed to pay, and this is what I can do right now at the moment. So that's fine. Number 4, will the applicant be involved in commercial, professional, or business activities other than those related to this application? Yes or no? So I guess, are you going to be having a second job? Are you going to be doing something else? Is the applicant currently, or has the applicant ever been an officer, director, owner, partner, or operator of a business company that has been charged or convicted of an offense under any law, or been involved in bankruptcy proceedings, filed a commercial proposal, or had a petition filed against it under any bankruptcy or insolvency legislation in any jurisdiction? So, have you ever been, so this is interesting, is the applicant currently, so not now, like, are you at the moment, you know, the director or officer of an existing business that has been charged or convicted under any offense or any law? So hopefully not. Number 6, has the applicant's wages, earnings, or other income ever been / or currently is subject to garnishment, attachment, or other similar orders in any jurisdiction? So yeah. Hopefully no. Has the applicant ever been involved in bankruptcy proceedings, filed a consumer proposal, commercial proposal, or had a petition filed under any bankruptcy, insolvency, or legislation in any jurisdiction? So yes or no. And so if yes, attach a complete copy of the statement of affairs and certificate of discharge if applicable. So that's fine. So if you click yes and it is your case, maybe you filed a consumer proposal in your lifetime, but you're making your payments, and that's fine. So you would make sure you attach the complete statement of affairs and certificate of discharge if it's applicable, right? Number 8, has the applicant ever been charged with an offense under any law within or outside of Canada? Please select all that apply. So hopefully the answer is no. Never been charged, or charges were withdrawn, dismissed, or resulted in a finding of not guilty. If you do answer yes, so yes, charges are still pending or before the courts, or yes, charges were stayed, or yes, charges resulted in a finding of guilt, conviction, absolute, or conditional discharge, then you will be required to give them further details about that. So that kind of ties in with question 9. So in support of this application, you are required to provide either a BackCheck or criminal record and judicial matters check. And it must be dated within the last 6 months. So they give you a good link here. So if you just follow this link, you should be able to submit your BackCheck report. Honestly, if you don't have a criminal record, like, you can just do the BackCheck report and it should be fine. And so then they just further confirm, have you submitted your BackCheck or attached your original criminal record and judicial matters? Check yes or no. So yeah, so I think that's straightforward too. Answered no to question 1, yes to any of questions 2 through 8, or no to questions 9 above. Please provide detailed and complete information on the attached statement signed and dated by you and an authorized individual in the dealership. Please also attach any supporting documentation. Okay, there's a big warning here. And again, OMVIC is saying, because, you know, I mean, your application is as good as the information you provide, but the problem is if they find something, or you know, didn't disclose something, it may result, again, this doesn't mean it will, may result in you having them either disentitlement to your registration. So you may just not be able to register if they find out that you weren't being truthful about certain things. Like if you have a complicated situation, you're unsure, and maybe it's a good idea to actually complete this individual application before you do the OMVIC certification course, because they could refuse. Honestly, they don't want to refuse it, because they actually, OMVIC wants you to become a dealer. So, you know, it's another dealer out there. They can get $10. They collect their $10 fees. Like, they really want you to be a dealer. So you would really have to be able to justify every single situation if you did have a complicated history. You'd have to really justify it and really know that you put it to rest and you resolved it and now you're moving on, right? So I think if you can show that, then that's okay. But clearly, if all the answers were no, and your situation is very uncomplicated, then that's ideal. There's no red flags for them to have to look into, right? So yeah, and that's pretty much it, guys.